On today's show, a bonus episode as we're going to catch up with Jordan Rodgers of the SEC Network and SEC Nation. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Appreciate you guys for joining us. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. We're going to dive right into it because we got some games to get into as we look around the SEC, a big slate of games. And joining us to get into it all is Jordan Rodgers. We're along here on a Friday ahead of a big SEC weekend, 6 games happening across the conference, and a pleasure now to talk with our buddy Jordan Rodgers from the SEC Network and SEC Nation. And Jordan, I want to just dive right into it, man. In College Station, where does College Station rank among your favorite SEC stops?
You know what? It's definitely up there. I'd say my ranking is a little skewed because I want somewhere really good to eat. So we got Republix here, which is awesome. And then I have to obviously put a lot of weight on the booth. I'm up there. I want it to be, comfortable. And they got a whole side that the TV production is on. So the stadium setup is great, but also the environment's unbelievable. So one of my favorite places to be for sure.
What's the call look like this weekend? Because I know you guys have kind of been divvied up. I know Cole was in the booth with Tom. You were in the booth. Yep. What game? How are we split up this week?
Yeah, so I'm going to be with Tessitore on the game, and we'll also be doing SEC Nation from here as well. So I got to get on SEC Nation from about 9 Central here till about 10:45, and then I got to sprint my butt up to the booth and start calling the game at 11.
Dude, what is with this weather right now? Like, we're used to, it's October. It's usually cooling off by now. It's pretty damn hot, and you guys have to wear suits. What's that been like so far?
I feel like we've had a gauntlet, too. I feel like this has been the hottest first half of the season. You're right. I feel like the first couple are always a little sweaty. You sweat through your white shirt. It happens. I'm next to Tebow, so I'm usually not always the sweatiest person, which is nice. But, yeah, man, by the time October hits, we're usually getting a little bit of cool weather. Not the case, so I brought 2 shirts just in case I sweat through the first one. I don't want to be all sweaty running up the booth.
Yeah, that means November is going to be like 20 degrees at some games, so get ready for that.
Seriously.
I want to get your thoughts real quick on some of the games happening this weekend. First off, does Auburn have any chance going on the road to Georgia? It feels like Georgia's on a mission to bounce back after last week.
How do I put this? No, I don't think they do. But here's the thing, too. Like, on the other side, I just did their game against Oklahoma, and this is a better football team than what we've seen. They really are. They're better on defense than I think a lot of people give them credit for. And we saw Peyton Thorne put together 3 quarters of some of the best football that we've seen from him. Now, the issue, I think, and this is maybe a bigger issue for college football right now, is that the helmet communication, I think, has really changed how a lot of these teams operate. And right now, I think the biggest issue with Auburn and Hugh Freeze is I think they're trying to run the perfect play instead of just running the play that's in front of them. And a lot of times the mistakes that Peyton Thorne has made, the big pick 6 at the end of Oklahoma, they're trying to do so much at the line of scrimmage to change the play, getting the perfect play, and it's causing a lot of indecision. I think that's what we're seeing. And the tempo system was built to run 80 plays, and you know what? If the defense beats you on 10 or 15 of them, that's okay, because then you have 60 or 65 great plays still. So I want to see Auburn get a little back to just go fast, run the play that's in front of you, give the ball to Jarquez Hunter. So I think they're better than people think, but Georgia is a monster. I think that monster got awoken really in the second half last week, especially Carson Beck playing with a ton of confidence. So I see Georgia handling this one and proving once again why they're one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, that schedule doesn't get any easier for Auburn down the stretch either.
No doubt. No doubt.
What about Ole Miss? Do we expect that offense bounces back this week at South Carolina? Our buddy Chris Marler's taking the upset. He thinks the Gamecocks pull it off, but I got to think Ole Miss tries to bounce back here.
This is an interesting one, honestly. And there's probably been no one that was higher on Ole Miss's offense and Jackson Dart than I was. I still am. But, man, to come off a game like Kentucky, and then you got to go on the road to Williams-Brice, against that defensive line, which I think that defensive line with Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart is one of the best in the entire country. I think this is a dangerous, dangerous game for Ole Miss because I think they're elite. I think they're a playoff team and a championship contending team everywhere on the football field right now, except the offensive line. And that was one of the things with the guys we saw them get in the portal. We're like, oh, they're going to be so much better on that side. They're bigger. They're more physical. They just haven't been. It was sloppy against Kentucky. I think that's one of the reasons the offense as a whole struggled a little bit. Jackson Dart was under a lot of pressure that game. That'll be the same thing this weekend. So if that offensive line doesn't shore up and play to a higher level, this is absolutely upset alert. Now, I'm still going to pick Ole Miss. I think it's going to be a close competitive game, though, and maybe even lower scoring than I think more so kind of like that Kentucky game. But I have a lot of faith in Shane Beamer to motivate his team and piece together a team that can be disruptive. But I just think Ole Miss comes out on top and they get back to the Ole Miss that we thought we'd see.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that line's been sitting at 9 all week and hasn't been much higher.
No doubt.
What about Tennessee? They come off the bye week, and they've been so impressive, Jordan, not just offensively, but defensively. But going on the road at Fayetteville at night, Arkansas have a chance to hang around?
I think they do. Look, this Tennessee defense is built different. But I will say they haven't really been tested. They haven't played a team that has as much talent, especially at quarterback that Taylor Green does. The weapons, Armstrong and Tesla on the outside as well. So it's going to be a great test. Now, the thing that bodes well for Tennessee is Arkansas has had some trouble protecting Taylor Green, and there's nobody playing better football on the front, blitzing the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback than Tennessee right now. And I don't think Tim Banks, defensive coordinator, gets enough credit for how he's turned that defense around the last couple of years, especially. They're a championship level defense, and I think maybe this is the first time we really see Nico Iamaleava really break out and have a huge game. We've seen him have good games. They haven't really needed him as much because Dylan Sampson, that run game has been going so effectively. But I think Nico puts up some monster numbers, and I think Tennessee flexes their muscles a little bit.
Man, you got Nico's name pronunciation down. Kudos to you. That is well done. What other one? Alabama. I mean, obviously, look, man, the impressive win last week against Georgia, Kalen DeBoer. They got to go to Vandy, and obviously, this is a much improved Vandy team. This used to be, you just penciled in a W, but the way Diego Pavia is playing, Clark Lee's defense, they're a team you got to take a little bit serious this year.
Man, I love you hyping up my Commodores, but I think it's going to be an ugly one. But you are right, though. And the thing I love about Pavia, what he's brought to this team, is he's got an unbridled confidence in himself. And I played at Vandy, and actually played in an era where we had more success than that program has maybe ever had. What it took was some confidence that had no backing, because we weren't good. But there was a group that got together in that locker room at Vanderbilt in 2011 and 2012 and said, you know what? I don't care if it's Alabama. I don't care if it's LSU. I don't care what team we're playing. We believe we could beat anybody. And I think that's how they feel right now. Now, I don't think that's going to happen on Saturday, but the pieces that Clark Lee has put together on that side of the ball especially have changed the culture of Vanderbilt. I think that's why we've seen them go toe-to-toe with Missouri in a game that they maybe should have won, and go toe-to-toe and beat Virginia Tech. As well. So I think this is a much improved Vandy team, but man, Jalen Milroe and this Alabama team are unbelievable. The ways that they can beat you with his legs over the top. But I think the most impressive part about Jalen Milroe has been his accuracy at the short to intermediate. I think we all knew he was a freak athlete. I think we all knew he could throw it a mile downfield if he needed to Ryan Williams. But we were all kind of wondering, can he be a consistent guy from the pocket? And I think we're starting to see that part of his game develop under Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan. And that truly is scary and should be scary for every team in the country, because when he unlocks that and he can beat you any way he wants to, that's danger zone for everybody else.
Yeah, and you never know. Everybody's been patting them on the back all week. They're the number one team. Maybe a little bit of a letdown. We'll see how it plays out. Two quick ones for you. UCF at Florida. A week ago, Jordan, I would have said, man, good luck, Florida. But UCF gets humbled against Colorado. This one just feels like Billy Napier, man. A win here would certainly help your case for staying in Florida long term.
Well, yeah, because if you don't get a win, I'm not so sure he sticks around past Sunday. But the tricky part, because you're right, we saw UCF take a step back. The tricky part about this is there's a lot of Florida pride that goes into this game. There's a lot of guys that are on that UCF roster that grew up probably wanting to play at Florida or Florida State. and didn't get that opportunity. And now with UCF, especially in the last handful of years, becoming a much more prominent and legitimate program and competing at a high level, this is a game that UCF and that roster is motivated for. And that's scary for Florida, because Florida right now is trying to figure themselves out, right? Who's their best option at quarterback? Are they going to keep playing two? It sounds like they are, which I don't think is the right move. But this Florida team, I think this is a make or break for not just Billy Napier, but really for the momentum that they need to build to finish this season off.
All right, last one for you, Jordan, and you can catch this game, by the way, tomorrow morning on ABC. SEC Nation will be out there, and, of course, Jordan will be on the call with Joe Tessitore. It is number 9 Mizzou at Texas A&M. Feels like a prove-it game for Mizzou and Eli Drinkwitz, right?
Oh, it is, right? I mean, this is a team that everybody has been talking about as a playoff team, but they haven't left the state of Missouri. They haven't played anybody that I think we would deem as legitimate, as a true test for a team that should be in the college football playoffs. But this is a team that I think thrives being overlooked, and I think they still are. You see it in the betting favorite. You see it in the way teams talk about, or the way the public and the national media talks about Missouri still. This is a quarterback in Brady Cook that's 15-2 since the start of last season. And I think they're going to prove that they're much more of that Missouri than the Missouri that we saw against Vanderbilt. And now, granted, this A&M team, I think, also is grossly underrated. The job that Colin Klein and Mike Elko have done with a backup true freshman quarterback stepping into the spotlight, winning 3 of his starts in a row, the momentum that they're generating, how they play defense, I think it's going to be the best game of the entire weekend. I think there are a ton of playoff implications for both sides. If Texas A&M wins this, they have the 3rd easiest remaining schedule in the SEC. They become a playoff contender immediately if they're able to show that they can knock off a Missouri. On the other side of that, if Missouri flexes their muscles, they have the 2nd easiest remaining schedule in the SEC, so they can afford a loss and probably still get to the playoffs. So I think it's a big prove it and a hinge game for both these teams.
Yeah, monster game for both sides. He is Jordan Rodgers, of course, of SEC Network, SEC Nation, and catch him on the call tomorrow morning with A&M and Mizzou. Jordan, I know you got to hop on Feinbaum. Appreciate you taking some time, man.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks, brother. That's Jordan Rodgers there. Does a fantastic job. Appreciate him for taking some time to hop on with us. Hey, want to remind you guys to check out our friends over at FanDuel, whether you're a college football fan, NFL fan, whatever it is you want to take advantage of, you can start the season with a big return over at FanDuel. They are America's #1 sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You will get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com. Of course, all the latest lines up there for this weekend's games. We've been telling you the ones that we like. I mean, look, Mizzou has been sitting at about a 2.5-point favorite all week on FanDuel. If you like them in the upset, you can get great value on them to make that happen. So go take advantage. Check them out, FanDuel.com. Download the app. It is FanDuel. They are America's #1 sports book. All right, that's going to do it for me, Chris Gordy. Appreciate you guys for joining us. Appreciate Jordan Rodgers for joining us as well. And we'll be back on Monday with our winners and losers of the weekend for SEC Week 6. Come on back and see us.